Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. Joining us right now from the Big Mac blog and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, DFWOT, it's Mac Engel. How you doing, Mac?
I'm very good, Bryan. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. I understand you completely detoxed from all sports and writing for an entire week. You even had like a moratorium on television for the whole Thanksgiving week?
Yeah, it wasn't deliberate, but that's essentially what it worked out as being, was a complete and utter detox. And it was good. You know, it's kind of like when you don't have coffee for a week, you feel a headache for a day or two, and then after that you feel really pretty good. And now, to say it felt good, but now I'm back to drinking coffee.
And now you got to catch up.
I do have to catch up, and you know, there's a lot of good things to catch up on. Obviously, A&M and Johnny Manziel is going to, I think, is probably going to win the Heisman, unless the kid from Notre Dame does.
Don't you know that's a dilemma for people who vote for the Heisman? You got some linebacker, or you got a freshman.
I'm one of those guys when it comes to the Heisman. For the most part, usually there's like two or three guys you can give it to, and you would say, yeah, that's a good one. I don't have, like last year when Robert Griffin beat out Andrew Luck, I would have had no problem had they give it to Andrew Luck. Yeah. I think Robert Griffin was a great choice because of what it meant to that school and all that, and what he meant to that school. But this year, if someone said give it to Johnny Manziel, yeah, that's good. That makes sense. Or if they said they give it to, I can't pronounce his name.
Manti Te'o.
Manti Te'o at Notre Dame, I wouldn't have any problem with that. If they give it to the running back at Oregon, I wouldn't have any problem with that. I think you could make a really good case for any three of those guys and give it to them. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if Manti Te'o wins the award.
It wouldn't either, just because of the Notre Dame factor.
Notre Dame factor. They went undefeated. They're a defensive team. They shut down really good offenses. You know, at Oklahoma, at USC. Now I know USC didn't have Matt Barkley, but to me this reminds me a little bit of the Rod Woodson thing when Rod Woodson won it as a cornerback in Michigan.
Right.
I wouldn't have any. I thought that was a deserving vote, and I think on this one, I think it would be equally as deserving. Either one of those guys deserves it. In my, I think either one's a good choice.
Personally, I think that if Johnny Manziel doesn't win it, the only reason he doesn't win it is because of the old farts that just refuse to vote for a freshman. I
think you're absolutely right about that. And I think the other thing, too, is those guys who don't want to give it to him are going to say, look what he did against Florida. Look what he did against LSU.
Yeah, but you know, RG3 lost 3 games last year. I mean, you
know. No, it's yeah. I'm not saying that the argument is really that valid. I'm just saying he didn't do that well. They should have. I think Bryan, had A&M won either of those games, had they defeated Florida, which they should have, had they defeated LSU, which they probably should have, then I think Johnny Manziel is probably a head and shoulders winner. But I think the fact that they lost 2 of those 3, and I'm talking Alabama, Florida, LSU, and Manti Te'o had such a good season for an undefeated Notre Dame team.
Yeah.
I think that's what, if Manti Te'o does win it, I think that's why it's going to be.
Could happen that way. All right, I want to ask you, we've talked about this before. Gary Patterson and TCU knock off Texas the other night on Thanksgiving night. So once again, Patterson in the first year with the Big 12, TCU is now bowl eligible. They've gone on to have a pretty nice season when it didn't look like it was going to start out that way with all the suspensions and Paul Hall getting kicked off the team or whatever it is that would happen to him. And there are some good jobs that have opened up in the last 24 hours. And then we knew the Arkansas job was going to be open. Do you still feel like Gary Patterson's absolutely going to stay at TCU?
Yes. I wrote this, I think, 10 days or 2 weeks ago. I think the only job he leaves for is Texas.
So if Tennessee comes in and throws $4.5 million at him, you don't think he's going to take it?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, he's building a new 9,000 square foot house here in Fort Worth.
You realize you can build houses in Knoxville. You know that, huh?
No, I know, and I think it comes down to he's interviewed, and that's just it, Bryan. He's interviewed for a number of these jobs before.
Yeah.
And he didn't get them, and you know, he was offered the University of Washington job sight unseen. They just offered him the job. This was a handful of years ago, I think, before they gave the job to Sarkisian. But I think Gary, and I feel pretty good about this, the Notre Dame job is a no.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Brian Kelly's obviously got it going, but
sure.
Let's just say that job came open. That job's a no. I have that on good authority. That job's a no.
Okay.
I think the Arkansas job that can be a good job, but it's a very hard job.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee is a similar situation. Tennessee to me should be a better job.
I agree.
I don't know why you can't go into Memphis and just own that town.
I just think it's been the wrong. I think Lane Kiffin has been the problem there. I mean, they've had to clean up so much of what he'd left.
Yeah, you're right.
The destruction there, and the fact that what are they now? 6 coaches or 4 coaches in 6 years? I mean, you can't win like that.
No, you can't. And they obviously had the wrong guys.
Mm-hmm.
But of those jobs, Auburn to me is a retirement check waiting to happen. I think Gary's of a mind. And he comes from this school of, if you're in a good place, there's no reason to leave. And right now, Gary has proven he's in a good place. Now, he's helped make it a good place. He's got the complete support of his administration. He has the complete support of the community. He has the complete support of everybody necessary to make that a retirement job. He can be to TCU what Bill Snyder is to Kansas State. And I think he sees the value in it because Gary knows deep down, just because what he does as well as he does, and it works at TCU, it doesn't necessarily guarantee it's going to translate to Arkansas or Tennessee. Kentucky's a terrible job.
Right.
Colorado has proven for some reason or other to be an awful job. And you look at all these guys who've left Boise State or other jobs, and they go and they bring that same acumen, that same winning pedigree, and for some reason or another, it doesn't work. If you would have told me Dan Hawkins would have left Boise State and gone down to Colorado and have fallen on his face, I would never have seen it coming.
And I still don't understand it.
Neither do I. And you got to get players, and obviously he wasn't getting players. And I think it's one of the reasons why we're seeing Chris Peterson stay at Boise State. Mm-hmm. You're making so much money. You're so secure. You have it good. His assistants here at TCU have it very good. There's no reason to leave. So I think Gary, but I do believe this. I think if Texas called, I think Gary would leave. And that's the only one I think he would leave for. But at the same time, Gary's not dumb, and neither is his agent. If one of these jobs like Arkansas or one of these other places calls,
mm-hmm.
he would say yes, if for no other reason than to leverage for his assistants
sure.
or leverage for a little bit more money.
Sure. Okay. And the other thing that you missed while you were in your, whatever it was, detox period there last week, you missed the look on Jerry Jones's face, this pasty white, I'm in shock look after he realized that RG3 is going to be the terror of his life twice a year for the next 10 years.
Yeah,
I've never seen Jerry look like that.
It's amazing, isn't it?
He's scared.
He should be, because the guy's a rookie, and he really looks like he's got it figured out. And if they get some more players around him, yeah, Washington looks like it's going to be in a good position for the next 6 to 8 to 10 years.
Dan Snyder, think about this. Dan Snyder's going to have a winning football team.
Yeah, and he will have. Granted, he had to make a really bold move to get it. He had to really sell out to trade up and to get Griffin. And I don't think Griffin was as much of a slam dunk as Andrew Luck was thought to be. But if I'm Jerry Jones, yeah, I'm nauseous because he's got a team now that is going either sideways or south.
Oh, it's south.
Yeah, okay. And now he's got, and basically he's looking at a situation that isn't that much different than the Philadelphia Eagles, which, as you and I both know, was a train wreck. So, yeah, if I'm Jerry, sick is optimum.
What do you do to energize your fan base next year? Window dressing is not going to get it done anymore.
No, and I wrote about that, and that was my column in Sunday's paper. If you look at Jerry's history as the owner of this team, the only other time that this team missed the playoffs for 3 straight years, he went out and hired Bill Parcells.
Uh-huh.
Now, the situation's different because at the time, Jerry was in a fight with the city of Irving and Dallas to get a stadium, and he knew he needed something to energize the taxpayers to foot the bill for that stadium. And he hired Bill. They went to the playoffs in Bill's first year, and they got the amendment passed. Well, now the stadium's built. He's got your money, and now he needs to put a winning team on the field, and they're going to miss it unless you never know how. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. But I don't think anybody really has any idea that this team's going to suddenly make the playoffs. So that's 3 straight years, and the only thing that he's not going to fire himself.
No.
So if you can't fire the GM, what's a big change? Either the head coach or the quarterback. And if you don't do either one of those, I don't know. I mean, anything else is window dressing. You fired Rob Bryan, okay, who cares? It's not, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to blame Rob Bryan. You fire the director of player personnel, which, you know, you're like,
so what?
Why? So what? Yeah, I mean, we both know. Everybody knows that nobody out there wanted Dez Bryant. That it was Jerry that wanted Dez.
Mm-hmm.
That Bruce Carter, Sean Lee, and a handful of other guys, Morris Claiborne, have all proven to be pretty good picks. No one's blaming Tom. No one thinks that this is Tom Siskowski's doing. So you're going to put this on the feet of Jason Garrett and fire him and hire Sean Payton. That would energize the fan base. Or you go out and you destroy Bill Callahan Bill Cowher with money. Like, here, Bill, I'm going to sink you in this pile of money. Take this job. Which then you've got to figure out, whoever takes the job has to take into account, he's got to have enough of an ego to think, I can convince that whatever player decisions that are going to be made are actually Jerry's.
Yeah. Yeah, so not only does he have to make hard decisions, then he's got to find a way to make Jerry believe they were his idea.
Right, and I think Jason Garrett has done that. I think if you look at most of the way the roster's been built, I think there's sort of I think that's pretty consistent with the way Jason would want to have built the team. I got to tell you though, Brian, I was wrong. I really thought Jason Garrett would get this done. I really thought he'd get it done. Now, the offensive line is a mess. They're terrible, and if you don't have a good line, then you're kind of screwed.
I told my wife last night, Vince Lombardi couldn't win with this team with the way this personnel is set up. I mean, that offensive line, I don't care what kind of offensive genius you are, there's nothing you can call when it can't get blocked.
Nope. And if you look at the way they play, and if you look at I know DeMarco Murray being out hurts, but the one thing I am really tired of, and it's not just the Cowboys, it's every team that does it in the NFL. As long as we stay healthy, forget it. Nobody stays healthy.
So get
it's
depth.
What can you do when you get hurt?
Right.
And the Cowboys aren't good enough.
No,
other teams get hurt all the time, and you know the Cowboys. Yeah, they lost Sean Lee. They're going to lose Bruce Carter. They've been without DeMarco Murray. You know, Barry Church. There are big losses, but it happens everywhere.
So will the petition to try to get Jerry to step down as the general manager work? Who's behind this?
I think the only thing would really work. I don't think he's going to remove himself as GM. I think the only thing that would really work. Yeah, I mean the petition's funny, and I think it is sort of indicative of a fan base that's really frustrated. But I do think the bigger issue is what can he do in the off season if this thing goes the way we think it's going to go. What can he do to try to mobilize his fans into remaining interested and from checking out? And I think the only thing you can do that is, unfortunately for him, is probably replace the head coach. But I got to tell you, I don't even know if he's going to do it.
No.
But the calendar says this would be the time he would do it.
Free beer would help.
Great.
just throwing it out there, you know.
Oh, I like it. That's forward thinking.
I mean, you know, or make every seat a $29 party pass. I mean, that might happen. You know, that might help.
Yeah, and you talk about reduction in ticket prices. You're paying $75 to park. You're paying $8 for a Coke, $15 for a hamburger.
Sure.
God, I mean, if I'm going to make that big of a financial commitment to come watch that crap, you better give me a better reason.
There you go. Free beer. Okay.
Free beer. That would do it.
Hey, Mac, good talking to you, man. We missed you last week. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and we're looking forward to visiting with you next week.
Okay, Brian.
Right,
thanks
buddy.
a lot. Have a great week.
You bet. Mac Engel from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the Big Mac blog, DFWOT on Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM.